in the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and ambition ruled every corner, there lived a man whose name was whispered with both awe and fear. Ethan Caldwell, the billionaire CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, was known for his icy demeanor and unyielding focus. To most he was an untouchable, a figure carved from marble, cold and distant. But beneath that polished exterior lay a man burdened by loneliness, though no one dared to see it. His life was a series of boardroom victories and calculated decisions, until one fateful day when an unexpected encounter shattered his carefully constructed world. It all began in a small village nestled deep within rolling hills, far removed from the chaos of urban life. Here lived Mia Thompson, a spirited young woman who had grown up surrounded by simplicity and warmth. She wasn't like the people Ethan usually encountered, polished, poised, and eager to please. Mia was different. Her eyes sparkled with defiance, her voice carried conviction, and she had a quiet strength that made her stand out even in a crowd. When news spread that Caldwell Enterprises was hiring for a new project, Mia saw it as an opportunity to step out of her comfort zone and prove herself. Little did she know, this decision would change not just her life but also the life of the man behind the empire. The interview took place in a makeshift office set up near the village square. Dozens of hopeful candidates lined up, each more nervous than the last, knowing they were about to face someone as intimidating as Ethan Caldwell himself. As Mia waited her turn, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and dread. She didn't have a fancy degree or years of corporate experience, but what she lacked in credentials, she made up for in determination. When her name was finally called, she walked into the room with her head held high, ready to face whatever came her way. Sitting across from her was none other than Ethan Caldwell, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. His sharp features exuded authority. He glanced at her resume, raising an eyebrow at its brevity. "You don't seem qualified for this role," he said bluntly, his tone dismissive. "Most candidates would, who have crumbled under such scrutiny, but Mia wasn't most candidates." Instead of backing down, she leaned forward slightly, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Qualifications are just numbers on paper," she replied calmly. "What matters is how much effort you're willing to put in, and I'm willing to give everything." Her response caught him off guard. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. In his world, people either feared him or flattered him, but here was someone who dared to challenge him. Intrigued despite himself, Ethan pressed further, asking pointed questions designed to test her resolve. Each answer she gave only deepened his curiosity. There was something about her honesty, her unwavering belief in herself, that intrigued him. By the end of the interview, Ethan found himself torn between admiration and disbelief. How could someone so ordinary leave such an extraordinary impression? As days turned into weeks, Mia joined the team working on Caldwell Enterprises' Rural Development Initiative. Her work ethic quickly became apparent. She poured her heart into every task, earning respect from colleagues and villagers alike. Meanwhile, Ethan found himself thinking about her more often than he cared to admit. At first it was professional interest. He wanted to understand what drove her relentless passion. But soon, those thoughts shifted, becoming something deeper, something he hadn't felt in years. It unnerved him, forcing him to confront emotions he had long buried. Their interactions grew frequent, though still formal. Ethan visited the site regularly, always finding excuses to speak with Mia. He admired her ability to connect with people, her knack for solving problems creatively. She, on the other hand, remained cautious around him. While she respected his intelligence and vision, she couldn't ignore the stark contrast between their worlds. Yet there were moments, brief, fleeting glimpses when she saw vulnerability in his eyes, hinting at a side of him few ever witnessed. These moments left her questioning whether there was more to the enigmatic CEO than met the eye. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Ethan invited Mia to join him for dinner at a nearby inn. Hesitant but curious, she agreed. Over a simple meal, they talked not about business, but about life. Ethan opened up about his struggles, his regrets, and the weight of expectations placed upon him. For the first time, Mia saw him not as the powerful billionaire but as a man searching for meaning. In return, she shared stories of her childhood, her dreams, and the values instilled in her by her family. The conversation flowed effortlessly, bridging the gap between their vastly different lives. But just as things seemed to be moving towards something promising, complications arose. Rumors began circulating among the staff, fueled by jealousy and speculation. Some accused Mia of using charm to climb the corporate ladder, while others questioned Ethan's intentions. The tension reached a boiling point during a company meeting, where Mia was publicly challenged about her role in the project. Once again, she stood her ground, refusing to let anyone undermine her hard work. Watching from afar, Ethan felt a surge of pride and anger. He realized then that protecting her meant confronting the very system he had built. With mounting pressure and unresolved feelings hanging in the air, Ethan faced a choice: continue down the path of isolation and control, or take a leap of faith and embrace the possibility of love. For Mia, the stakes were equally high. Could she trust the man who embodied everything she once thought she couldn't relate to? And if she did, what sacrifices would it demand from both of them? As the story unfolds, questions linger in the minds of those watching. Will Ethan's icy exterior melt completely, revealing the man beneath? Can Mia navigate the complexities of his world without losing herself in the process? And perhaps most importantly, will their connection withstand the challenges ahead, proving that love can bloom even in the unlikeliest of places? The answers lie just beyond the horizon, waiting to be uncovered in the next chapter of their journey. Ethan's decision to intervene on Mia's behalf during that fateful company meeting was both unexpected and bold. When whispers of doubt turned into outright accusations, he stepped forward, silencing the room with a single glance. Mia has earned her place here, he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Anyone who questions her integrity is questioning mine. The declaration stunned everyone present, including Mia herself. For all his power, Ethan had never publicly defended an employee before. But this wasn't just about defending her, it was about acknowledging how much he had started to mean to him back at the village. However, not everyone viewed Ethan's actions as noble. Some villagers saw him as an outsider, a symbol of everything wrong with corporate greed. They worried that Mia, with her big heart and trusting nature, might get caught in a web she couldn't escape. Her best friend, Sarah, voiced these fears openly one evening as they sat by the riverbank. "You're playing with fire, Mia," Sarah warned, her tone laced with concern. "He's not one of us. What happens when this project ends? Will he still care about you then?" Mia didn't have an answer. Deep down, she shared some of those doubts, but something inside her refused to let go of the hope that maybe, just maybe, Ethan could change. Meanwhile, Ethan wrestled with his own demons. Back in the city, his board members grew increasingly uneasy about his frequent absences and growing attachment to the Rural Development Initiative. One evening, over a tense video call, they confronted him directly. "This isn't what we hired you for, Ethan," said Margaret Hensley, the chairwoman of Caldwell Enterprises. "Your focus should be on expanding our urban operations, not chasing some idealistic dream in the countryside." Ethan clenched his jaw, feeling torn between duty and desire. He knew they were right, at least in part. Yet, every time he thought about leaving Mia behind, guilt gnawed at him. The tension escalated further when a rival corporation launched a smear campaign against Caldwell Enterprises, accusing them of exploiting local resources under the guise of development. Protesters gathered outside the village site, holding signs that read, "Stop corporate greed and protect our land." The media descended on the area, hungry for scandal. Reporters hounded Mia, asking if she believed Caldwell Enterprises truly cared about helping the community or if it was all a ploy to win favor. Each question felt like a dagger aimed at her trust in Ethan. She tried to defend the project, but the pressure mounted, and cracks began to show in her resolve. Amidst the chaos, Ethan made a drastic move. He announced plans to relocate the headquarters of Caldwell Enterprises to the village temporarily, citing the need for closer oversight of the initiative. While this gesture was meant to reassure the villagers and quell the protests, it only deepened existing divisions. To some, it seemed like a genuine effort to bridge the gap. To others, it appeared condescending, as though Ethan thought throwing money and resources at the problem would make it disappear. Even Mia struggled to reconcile his intentions with the backlash it sparked. As weeks passed, their relationship became both a source of strength and conflict. Late-night conversations under the stars offered moments of solace, where they could forget about the world and simply be two people drawn together by fate. But during the day, the weight of reality pressed down on them. Ethan's attempts to prove himself to Mia often came across as controlling rather than supportive. Similarly, Mia's fierce independence sometimes clashed with Ethan's instinct to protect her from harm. Both were learning painful lessons about compromise and vulnerability, yet neither wanted to walk away. Then came the turning point, a discovery that threatened to unravel everything. A leaked document revealed that Caldwell Enterprises had initially considered acquiring land in the village for commercial purposes before pivoting to the development project. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, reigniting old suspicions and fueling new anger. Protesters returned in greater numbers, demanding answers. Worse still, someone anonymously sent the document to Mia, forcing her to confront the possibility that Ethan may have misled her or, worse, manipulated her. Confrontation was inevitable. On a stormy afternoon, Mia stormed into Ethan's temporary office, her face pale with fury. "Did you know about this?" she demanded, slamming the papers onto his desk. Thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the tempest within her. Ethan froze, caught off guard by the evidence staring back at him. He hadn't known the full extent of the plan, at least, not until now. "I swear, I didn't approve this," he said, his voice low but urgent. "But I can't deny that it existed. I should have told you sooner." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, not from sadness but from betrayal. All the doubts she'd pushed aside came rushing back, threatening to drown her. "How could you keep something like this from me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Was anything real, or was I just another piece in your grand plan?" Ethan reached out to touch her hand, but she pulled away, shaking her head. "Don't," she snapped, her voice breaking. "Just don't." That night, Mia retreated to her small cottage, alone with her thoughts. Every memory of Ethan played on a loop in her mind, the way he looked at her, the way he spoke about changing, the promises he made. Had any of it been true? Or had she been blinded by hope and naivety? As rain battered against her windows, she realized she had reached a crossroads. Trusting Ethan again would require a leap of faith she wasn't sure she could take. Walking away, though, felt equally impossible. On the other side of the village, Ethan paced his room, consumed by regret and frustration. He had always prided himself on being in control, on making calculated moves that ensured success. But love, real, messy, unpredictable love, was a game he didn't know how to play. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to risk losing something irreplaceable. And yet, despite the turmoil, a spark of determination burned within him. If there was even the slightest chance to fix this, to prove to Mia that he was worthy of her trust, he would take it. The climax loomed closer with each passing hour. Early the next morning, news broke that Caldwell Enterprises' board planned to shut down the rural development project entirely unless Ethan returned to the city immediately. It was an ultimatum designed to force his hand, to remind him where his loyalties truly lay. But Ethan had no intention of backing down. Instead, he called an emergency meeting with the villagers, determined to fight for the future they had built together. Standing before a crowd of skeptical faces, Ethan laid bare his soul. He admitted his mistakes, acknowledged the pain he had caused, and vowed to do whatever it took to make things right. "I'm not perfect," he confessed, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "But I'm trying, and I believe in this project, not because it benefits my company, but because it benefits all of you." His speech left the audience divided. Some remained unconvinced, while others began to see glimmers of sincerity in his plea. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the village square, all eyes turned to Mia. Would she stand by Ethan, risking everything to give their love a chance? Or would she choose to protect herself and her community, severing ties with the man who had once promised her the world? The air crackled with anticipation, the resolution hanging precariously in the balance. Whatever choice she made, it would alter the course of their lives forever. Mia stood at the edge of the village square, her heart pounding as all eyes turned to her. The weight of expectation pressed down on her shoulders. But she knew this moment wasn't just about her, it was about everyone who had invested their hopes in the project. And it was about Ethan, too. She glanced at him briefly, standing tall, yet vulnerable under the fading light. His gaze met hers, filled with both desperation and hope. Taking a deep breath, Mia stepped forward, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I won't lie to you," she began, addressing the crowd. "I've been hurt by this situation, maybe more than any of you realize, but I also know that giving up isn't the answer." Her words silenced the murmurs around her. "This project isn't perfect, and neither is the man behind it. But if we walk away now, we're letting fear dictate our future instead of fighting for what we believe in." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces before turning back to Ethan. "And as for him," her voice softened, tinged with emotion, "he's made mistakes, yes, but he's trying to fix them. That counts for something." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances, torn between skepticism and the desire to trust. It was Sarah who broke the silence, stepping forward with a reluctant nod. "If Mia believes in this, then maybe we should give it another chance," she said firmly. One by one, others voiced their support, tentative at first, but growing stronger. Ethan exhaled sharply, relief washing over him like a wave. He hadn't expected forgiveness so easily, but he vowed silently to honor their trust every day moving forward. With renewed determination, Ethan and Mia worked side by side to salvage the project. They held open forums where villagers could voice their concerns, ensuring transparency at every step. Together, they revised plans to prioritize sustainable development, focusing not just on economic growth but also on preserving the community's culture and environment. Slowly but surely, the rift began to heal. Protesters dispersed, replaced by volunteers eager to contribute. Even critics softened their stance, acknowledging the genuine effort being made. As weeks turned into months, Ethan found himself changing, in ways he never thought possible. The rigid CEO who once valued profit above all else became a man driven by purpose. He sold off unnecessary assets from Caldwell Enterprises, redirecting funds toward initiatives that benefited rural communities. Across the region, for the first time in years, he felt alive, not because of wealth or power, but because he was making a difference. And through it all, Mia remained his anchor, reminding him of why they started this journey together. Their relationship evolved alongside the project, tested but ultimately strengthened by adversity. Late-night conversations gave way to shared laughter, quiet moments of understanding, and an unspoken promise to always be honest with each other. On a crisp autumn morning, Ethan surprised Mia with a simple yet heartfelt proposal. Kneeling beside the riverbank where they'd spent countless evenings talking, he held out a small ring, a symbol of commitment rooted in humility rather than extravagance. "You've changed my life, Mia," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "Will You let me spend the rest of mine trying to deserve you." Tears streamed down Mia's face as she nodded, pulling him into a tight embrace. In that moment, surrounded by nature and the echoes of their struggles, everything felt right. Their wedding was a modest affair, held in the village square with friends, family, and villagers alike celebrating their union. It wasn't without its challenges. Ethan's board still grumbled about his unconventional choices, and some villagers remained wary, but none of that mattered on their special day. What mattered was the love they shared and the belief that, together, they could overcome anything. Years later, when people spoke of Ethan and Mia, they didn't talk about riches or fame. Instead, they remembered how two seemingly opposite worlds collided to create something beautiful. Coldwell Enterprises became synonymous not with greed but with innovation and compassion, thanks to Ethan's transformation. Mia, meanwhile, inspired countless others to stand up for their values and fight for change. Together, they proved that love isn't just about finding someone who completes you, it's about growing together, learning from each other, and building a legacy that endures. As the sun set on their story, casting golden hues over the village they had helped rebuild, Ethan and Mia sat hand in hand, watching their children play nearby. Life hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Through every challenge, every triumph, they had chosen each other, and in doing so, they had created a bond stronger than any obstacle. Their tales served as a reminder that no matter how different two people may seem, love has the power to bridge even the widest gaps, and sometimes, the most unexpected connections lead to the greatest adventures of all.